On paper where the story's told, facts and truth, the legend grows. Lionheart's here with fire to spit. It's on paper with Anthony Smith.
With Anthony Smith. Welcome back to On Paper. I'm Kelly Murphy. More importantly, that is my co-host, Anthony Lionheart Smith, UFC light heavyweight, the ultimate girl dad, the biggest loser after Super Bowl Sunday. Anthony, how are you doing?
In the spirit of honoring my stupid ass bets with my friends and crew in ESPN, go Birds.
Wow. Is there more to it? Did you just have to say go Birds? What was the situation?
I made this stupid ass bet that I had to begin the next episode of the podcast in this stupid ass eagle costume. You know what? I would have bet anything that the Chiefs were going to anything. I would have bet my house. I'd have bet two of my kids probably. I would have given up because I was so sure. Like, yeah, whatever you guys want. Like, I just told them, look at this. I was like, yeah, I'll wear this stupid ass Eagles costume if they win because they're not going to. No way.
I will say you started walking it back last week.
No.
You said if you know what, Saquon getting a ring wouldn't be half bad.
I lied when I said that.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it sounded really nice. That if I said something nice about Saquon Barkley, I hate him. I don't like him. I don't like the Eagles.
Like the reverse jinx.
Yeah. I jinxed it because I brought it up. And now I have to do like another 2 minutes in this dumbass hat. With it. You see this? This is stupid.
What are they timing it?
I'm just go Birds. That's what I had to say. I thought I got a funny go Birds story, actually.
Oh boy.
When I fought Jimmy Crute in Jacksonville, it was the first live sporting event back with a sold-out crowd after COVID. I can't even take myself seriously because I keep seeing this thing. It's a great story, though.
The beak out of the corner of your eye.
Like, a lot of people know my boxing coach, Danny Molina, who was at the Super Bowl. I was talking so much shit to him. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Spend all that money to go take an L. Like, there's no reason. Don't do that. Save your money. And so much trash. But anyways, I'm fighting Jimmy Crute. My boxing coach, Danny's huge Eagles fan. Tom Brady is in the first row of the fight, right? And he's there with a lot of the Bucs players, right? And Tom, gives me like a fist bump from ways away, like an air fist bump when I'm coming out, And then he was like clapping and like got Danny's attention and said, "Hey, coach," and was like giving him a thumbs up. Danny looks over at Tom Brady right in his eyeballs and said, "Go Birds." He didn't miss a beat to just.
I don't know a lot of people that would have the balls to do that.
Oh, he
to
didn't
Tom Brady.
It was ridiculous.
That's insane. I can't look at you with this thing on. I really can't. But I do want to talk about the game a little bit because it was abysmal. It was really bad. I've never seen the Chiefs look worse.
No, keep rubbing it in. Keep going.
Mahomes looked bad. The O-line looked bad. They certainly didn't play any defense. Did you see how many points Philly raked up?
It was an off day. It was just an off day. Everybody has an off day.
I mean, not on the biggest day of your life.
It's hard to be great all the time. You know what I mean? It's, it just caught up to them. I think sometimes, like the football gods are like, we need to let somebody else win every once in a while. And we're probably gonna win next year. So
I don't know about that. It kind of feels like that window's closing. Dynasties are great for X amount of years, and then.
Who did you guys play on Sunday?
What are we're gonna do this every time?
Who? Oh, you didn't.
The Jets on Sunday announced they were moving on from Aaron Rodgers. They did something.
I thought everybody knew that.
I mean,
did they just announce it for Aaron Rodgers? Because I think the rest of the football community knew that.
Listen, this is not a football podcast. I will keep it short. Okay. Great long-term move, short-term. I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah,
anywho.
All right. I'm getting out of this thing.
You're done? All right. You fulfilled the bet.
My debt is paid. It's paid. That's it.
Are you going to keep it in the event you find yourself in the same
this
spot
thing?
Next year? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not.
Why?
No way. What the hell would I do with this?
Good Halloween costume or something.
Oh, yeah. Toilet paper.
All right, now that debacle is over and done with, luckily, I'll probably
Yeah.
still throw some Chiefs jabs in
Yeah,
here and
that's
there because that's just my
fine.
personality.
You know what? I'm an okay loser. We didn't win. It's okay. I'm good with it.
Good. I'm glad you feel that way. Let's talk UFC 312. We obviously had some fights go down Saturday night. I will say going into the event, on paper, it wasn't the best card I've ever looked at. I kind of felt the same way watching it, aside from a few bright spots, I would say. Do you want to start with the main or the co-main?
Let's start with the main.
Okay, so obviously Dricus Du Plessis beat Sean Strickland via unanimous decision. Not as competitive as the first one. I mean, as far as similarities go, Strickland was comfortable sticking behind his jab. DDP had the more impactful shots, but Strickland's output just was not there. And for somebody who said it would go to the death, it certainly didn't seem like that Saturday night.
No, he looked a bit off. His output's never crazy high. It's just not like he's constantly doing something. He's got a lot of pressure in his approach, but I didn't feel like he put as much pressure on as he typically did. It seemed like Du Plessis kind of picked up in like the 6th round, like that first round of the fight, kind of where he left off. He seemed more comfortable earlier than Strickland did, and honestly, is not competitive as it was. I don't feel like Du Plessis had this breakout, crazy, impressive performance either. He was just busier. He wasn't afraid to kind of wade into some of Strickland's bullshit, and I think that's a product of already being in there for 5 rounds with Strickland. Sean's not as amazing as Sean is as a fighter generally. I got a lot of respect for his game. I think that he does a lot of things really well, and that's just a lot of that comes from me training with him before and just spending a lot of time breaking him down. He's a really tough guy to deal with. So I just felt like Dricus found out in the last fight that he didn't have to be super nervous about the power of Strickland. Like that as long as his chin is tucked and he kind of rolls with him and keeps his hands in a good spot, that he'll probably be able to take Strickland's biggest shot. And he fought like a guy that felt like that. So he just pushed forward and he never stopped. You remember back in the day, we used to be really critical of Du Plessis' cardio. And we used to say, oh, there's no way he's going to make it 5 rounds. There's no way he's going to do well in main events. And he would always say he had this nose issue, that he needed to have this nose surgery, and that would fix it all. Well, we all thought that it was kind of just a cop-out, like a little bit of bullshit. Turns out he was telling the truth the whole time, because the dude's got amazing cardio and he's able to and again, I'm saying this because I've been in there with Strickland training.
Right.
His pace is hard to deal with. His pressure, it's like this invisible wall that's in front of you the whole time. And it never stops. And Dricus is dealing with it just fine. He didn't even wrestle this time. I thought he would wrestle more in this fight than he did in the last fight. And he got 6 takedowns the last time. So he didn't really do too much wrestling at all. And he switches stances really well. He was really impressive. But I don't want to discredit Du Plessis, but I think Sean I don't know. He
didn't do anything, he didn't take any risks in order to put himself in a better position. He just felt comfortable doing what he was doing, but that wasn't going to win him rounds.
But I'm a little bit sympathetic to Sean because he's not the type of guy that does well fighting from behind. If he gets ahead early, he runs downhill and he's hard to deal with. If he is behind a round or 2 rounds, it's going to be hard for him to catch up because, again, he's not this prolific finisher. He's not going to shoot a takedown past the guard and start chasing submissions. It's not his style. It's not that I'm saying he can't do it. It's just not his personality or his style of approach. He's not the one punch knockout guy. He's more of an accumulation. So once he gets to round 3 or round 4, you can, for the most part, probably count out a Sean Strickland finish. If someone's conditioning is held up through round 4 or halfway through round 3, they're going to probably be able to even at a minimum just hold on tight through the 5th round. Even if, and if they're ahead 3 rounds up to that point, they still win. He's just, it takes him a while. It's a it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's an accumulation over a long period of time. He wears people out. He confuses them. But if he gets around 2 or 3 and he hasn't done that yet, it's going to be tough for him. And I think for me, it's unfortunate because I know how good he is and what his capabilities are. And he just didn't show it on Saturday.
Well, I think that's where a lot of people come from because you hear
Dean
these
was
stories.
hot.
Dean was hot. And you
Dean
hear
was
these
hot.
stories about Strickland, though. Like he gets into these gym wars and his coach, Eric Nixick, which shout out Eric Nixick. I thought he did a hell of a coaching job despite Sean not picking up the win Saturday. Always talks about how tough he is, and people who have trained with him, like you and his training partners day to day, always talk about how tough he is in the gym. And then sometimes it just doesn't feel like that translates to the cage. And obviously you and Dean worked the desk together on Saturday night. And Dean said, we have to admit that Sean Strickland's not who he says he is. He wants to be something, but he's not that guy. He's not the guy who's going to go to the death. I'm paraphrasing here, not saying he's not a great fighter, but he's not who he says he is. I'm sure you and Dean will talk about this at length on Wednesday on SiriusXM, but what were your thoughts on that?
Initially I thought Dean was being a bit critical. But that's what Dean is. He has every right to be. He's been in there. He's been in there himself. He's coached champions several times over. He knows what he's looking at and he knows what it takes. I thought he went a little hard on Strickland there just because he was down. But listen, I'm critical of people too, and that's what Dean felt. So I don't know that Sean is not that guy. I think he's exactly who he says he is. It's just like inside. Sometimes he doesn't have he needs a willing participant in the to the death type of fight. Not that Dricus isn't willing, because he was bringing it to Sean every step of the way. Dricus just wasn't brawling. He wasn't just standing in the pocket and letting Strickland get off. He was mobile. He was in and out. Like the type of person, like Izzy is a better matchup for Strickland because he is kind of he's the looking in the mirror type of fighter where they kind of both stand there and kind of press forward and they try to do this one shot back and forth thing. That's not how Du Plessis fights. He did a little bit in the first fight and he made the adjustment in this one, and he didn't play into Strickland's bullshit. And that's why he was so successful. He got in, got out, and didn't play Sean's game. I think the wrestling threat from the first fight changed how Strickland moved forward too. So even though he didn't shoot any real takedowns, the threat of a takedown was enough to create issues for Sean Strickland, in my opinion.
Someone that the threat of the takedown didn't create issues for, Weili Zhang. We'll get to that in a little bit because that was the bright spot of the card for me. But we've talked a lot about Sean Strickland. I do want to talk about Dricus Du Plessis. And up next for him, though, is most likely going to be Khamzat Chimaev. I know Dana has mentioned that. I know everybody thinks that that's going to be the next matchup. What do you think goes down in that kind of fight?
Shit, I don't even know. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm looking at now. When it comes to Du Plessis, I said this a lot on the post show, but Dricus Du Plessis is an anomaly to me because when he first came into the UFC and he first started kind of making a name for himself, all of us analysts, we'd been on the road traveling together and doing these different things. None of us really knew what to think of him because he was beating good guys. And we were just like, how? Because we would break down the tape and we just look at the film. And the film at the beginning said that he does a lot of things. And I'm going to change how I word this. I used to say he does a lot of things wrong and finds a way to make it work. Now I can't really say, it's not fair to me to say he does it wrong. Because if it's effective, is it really wrong? I don't think so. So I think it's unfair for me to even say that about him anymore. But the way he does things is unconventional. I don't want to say it's unorthodox because unorthodox is different. Izzy's unorthodox, but he's fundamentally sound. He's very unconventional. It doesn't look right. Like you would never coach anyone to fight how Dricus Du Plessis fights. I do want to note though that he looked sharper and cleaner in this fight than he had in a long time. Than he has ever, if I'm being honest. He didn't look as unconventional. He looked like his technique looked a little sharper. It looked a little more like it should in our eyes as analysts. So he's got a really beautiful mix of some unconventional stuff that's really sharpening up with some fundamentals. I thought his movement was better. It's like it's crazy, like how at this point in his career, not only is he getting better, everybody gets better as a champion. You have to evolve and get better to stay afloat in this game. But he's also like, it seems like he's getting cleaner, and it's almost like as the champion of the world, now he's learning how to fight. Like he's always had that dog. I don't think he gets enough credit for his grit. So he's definitely got a lot of grit. He's got a lot of determination. He's got a lot of willpower in the way that he fights, and just good old fashioned, go hard. But he's really cleaning up a lot of the things that we were critical of. But he didn't start doing it until he was already the champion of the world, which is crazy to me. So in terms of, if you'd asked me a year ago what I thought Du Plessis and Strickland and Khamzat would look like, I'd say, oh yeah, it's an easy win for Khamzat. He's going to go in there, grab a hold of him, rip him down to the ground, and smoke him. I'm not so sure. I think on the feet, I favor Du Plessis because he is hard to hit clean. He's got an unconventional movement. He's got this weird, funky kind of rhythm that he fights at. He's clearly got power in his hands. And I don't know that for a fact, but I can tell by the way people react when he touches them. They change how they move. They change their approaches. You can just tell, like I can tell from fighter to fighter, he didn't like it. Maybe he didn't even react, and people on TV couldn't even tell. But I can tell that the way that they move forward after that is different after they take a clean shot. So he's clearly got power that's enough to change how people think. And he actually is pretty efficient defensively. So I would give him the nod there on the striking side. And feels like I think the rest of the world will say, well, of course, Khamzat's going to get a takedown. Maybe. The way that Dricus moves is very weird and very, I think, to kind of preview a little bit of the co-main event, I think that Weili was so hard to take down because of her movement and her footwork and her unconventional kind of in and out and hitting angles and stuff. It wasn't that she out-wrestled. She didn't straight up out-wrestle Tatiana. She just made it hard for Tatiana to do what she wanted to do and then capitalized on it once Tatiana started getting tired. But I kind of feel the same about Du Plessis. And like he seems to be just absolutely goddamn strong because people react differently when he starts grabbing them. He just puts them where he wants.
100% right.
It's weird. Like I know that some of these guys are amazing. I know that they're amazing. I know what a lot of them feel like in these clinch positions, and he is just manhandling some of them. It's got to be just he's got this, this phenomenal grappling game, and just goddamn good old fashioned fucking cock strong. He's got to just be crazy strong.
No, I completely agree with you on everything you said, but I want to dive into the Khamzat Chimaev side of that potential fight a little bit. And he's definitely been the boogeyman of that division, and maybe a couple of divisions, to be honest. Who knows what he's capable of across like 2 or 3 of these divisions here. But has his aura ever faded to you? Because as a fan, his resume can't be denied, of course, but he hasn't had consistent activity, whether, due to sickness or visa issues, whatever it may be. I think the inconsistent activity paired with Gilbert and Kamaru making him look a little bit human, it feels like his aura has almost been on like a roller coaster for me as a viewer.
Well, his wins are other than the Whitaker one, some of them are fading a little bit because like Gilbert did make him look human, but then Gilbert went on and has had some mixed success. As much as I love Gilbert,
right?
He's had a little bit of up and downs ever since then, since his own title fight. So Gilbert hasn't been crazy successful on a big run since then. Kamaru's been, inactive, like since then. So
right,
they're just not aging really well because he's not putting enough of them in the bank as that happens. So it's like even the Whitaker one, like, yeah, that's great. But like Du Plessis kind of did the same thing too. So
it's a good point.
So you're like, that doesn't look as cool anymore, because as the time goes on, he's just not putting enough in the bank as that happens. Even the, Kamaru one looks great, but we haven't seen Kamaru since. And it's just, I just wish he was more consistent. And he's not getting any younger. I'm not saying he's an old man, but
How old is he?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but he's not
He's
crazy young.
30.
Yeah, I mean, he's
He'll be
not
31 this
25.
year.
He's not 25. And you don't get better at doing something. I'm going to steal that from Chael. You don't get better at doing something by not doing it. Like Dricus is consistent. He's
Yep.
getting the reps. He's getting the game time feel consistently. I just think that fight is a whole lot more competitive than I think the kind of pass by fans are gonna think.
Well, I think, like you said, with how much Dricus has improved, and I do think a lot of his improvement showed in this fight because it was now 10 rounds with Sean Strickland, so
Right.
it's easier to look better and cleaner and sharper, kind of knowing what's across from you.
For sure.
But regardless, much improved. And then paired with Chimaev, who's been inconsistent, and you look at the resume and you see names like former champions, Kamaru Usman, Robert Whittaker, Gilbert Burns, who's been a staple in his division, and they all look great. But when you do a deeper dive, which is why we have you here,
Mhm.
and you kind of see where his opponents have gone after their fights with him, it's a lot more exciting than you would think.
It's a whole lot more exciting. And that's not, and this isn't me kind of shitting on Hamzat. I think Hamzat's great.
Of
I think
course.
it would be an insane fight to be a part of and watch, but I just think it's going to be super competitive. And then you put into the conditioning, you know, maybe chink that might be in Hamzat's armor. That's kind of the thing that people point at. If he doesn't get an early finish, that sword dulls a little bit. We have no question that Dricus Du Plessis can go 5 rounds hard as shit with no problem. There's no
We've seen
question.
it a couple of
And
times.
now there's no choice. He in a 3-round fight, I'd be leaning a whole lot more towards Hamzat. In a 5-round atmosphere, I mean, gun to my head, I'm probably picking Du Plessis, and that's crazy.
That is crazy because I still think, as much as Dracus has impressed me and has burned me in terms of my betting, I'd probably still go Hamzat, and that just may be me being naive. I know when I saw the betting odds yesterday, Hamzat was a minus 220 favorite to Dracus's plus 170, something of that
Yeah,
nature.
that's some disrespect. That's crazy.
Well, speaking of champs being disrespected in the odds, Weili Zhang went into her co-main event with Tatiana Suarez
Yeah.
as the underdog. And I don't think a lot of people could have predicted how that fight was going to go Saturday. It almost felt like we were tuning in Saturday to watch the coronation of Tatiana Suarez.
Mhm.
And she just felt destined to become champion. She was destined to be in a title fight. And Weili, I really can't even put into words how impressed I am. You said on last week's episode that her takedown defense would be key, and it was nearly flawless. She got taken down once in the first round and never again.
Yeah, like Tatiana was like 1 for 16 on takedowns or something crazy like
Mhm.
that. Once she got that first takedown, I was like, "Oh shit, here we go.
Right.
This is the beginning of the end." You know, Dean and I had a long conversation about this even last week, even before we both traveled to work. It really came down to footwork. It wasn't so much could Tatiana take her down. Of course, if they're in a wrestling match and they put their foot on the line and shake hands, Tatiana is going to dog walk Weili in a wrestling match. But that's not what we're in. So
Mhm.
it was really about how can Tatiana Suarez track her down? Because it's a big cage. It's a big cage. Can she corner her? Is her footwork good enough to get her into a position to shoot a takedown that's from manageable range? And I thought she did a good job in the first round being super patient, but I think we got kind of duped a little bit because I think that takedown was really based off of a Zhang Weili mishap. And it's like another thing that I kind of thought would happen. I thought that Zhang Weili would fight a nearly perfect fight
Mhm.
and find herself in a situation where she did get taken down and she would try to scramble to her feet and Tatiana would jump on her back or she'd grab that Darce choke or jump that guillotine. And it would just be, I thought Zhang Weili would win a lot of the moments in the fight and make a mistake trying to get back to her feet. And then I realized in the first round, oh, she's not going to make any mistakes getting back to her feet. She was super smart. She was willing to just concede the round
Mhm.
She wasn't letting Tatiana take her back. She kept her off of her neck. Tatiana jumped the guillotine, but it was poor timing and bad position.
Right.
And then, Weili ended up on top or whatever, like in the weird scramble.
Mhm.
So I knew right then and there, like, oh no, this is really bad for Tatiana because Zhang Weili was comfortable and she felt safe and she felt confident enough in herself to say, okay, I'm not going to force this and I'm not going to scramble to my feet. And I'm not going to make any stupid mistakes and
Mhm.
give my back up to try to get to my feet. And hopefully I can make it work. She was super fundamentally sound. She stayed safe. She took almost no damage when she was down there. She was in zero threat.
Well,
So
she also made it uncomfortable for Tatiana.
for sure. And I think that's where the beginning of the end started. I think when Weili realized that's not that bad. Like I can handle that. I
Mhm.
can deal with that. Like I can deal with that problem. That's worst case scenario for Tatiana Suarez. Because best case is you get the takedown and she's super uncomfortable there and she doesn't like it and she's struggling and she doesn't feel like she's super safe.
Sure.
And then she retracts from the wrestling completely. And now you're just trying to get a beat on her. You track her down, get a takedown, and it's a panic moment for her. That's when people start making those mistakes. They scramble to their feet because they're uncomfortable. Worst case scenario is that Zhang Weili is like, oh, this is not that bad. I can handle this. Because now she's not worried about any of the entries on her punches. She's not worried about any of the striking part of the game because she doesn't care if she gets taken down because she's fine with it.
Exactly. That
That
had to have helped her mentally so much, and especially for it to happen so
Yeah.
early into the
Yeah,
fight,
best case scenario was she got taken down early and it was fine.
because then she
That
never
couldn't have been
got gun
better.
shy. She was
Never again.
chilling.
She was never gun shy. She was never worried about the wrestling. She was never worried about entering into like boxing range. She even like counter wrestled
Mhm.
herself and got her own takedowns. I couldn't have been more proud of her. Just as a like fighter to fighter, athlete to athlete, I felt like a sense of pride for her.
Yeah.
Like you should be so proud of yourself to go in there. She's a little bit shy just in her personality. She's a little bit I think she has a tiny bit of imposter syndrome. Like she's unsure where she belongs with some of these girls, which I think is really healthy for her because I think it makes her hyper focused and work really, really hard when she's in the gym. And I've heard something similar from a couple different people as well. They got the same, people that are a little bit closer to her kind of have the same read on her that it's kind of like GSP. He worked so hard and fought the way he fought because he was so afraid
Right.
all the time. He hated it. He was so afraid of it. So I think she has a little bit of that, like a healthy amount of that. So I was just really proud of her for going in there and like you could see her figure it out in real time. Like,
Right.
oh, I'm good enough here. And then it changed the rest of the approaches. Like it might have almost been better for Tatiana for her not to get a takedown in the first couple rounds and make Weili sweat on it. Like
And then because the thought's
and
still in her mind, if I do
and
get
be
taken
unsure.
down, how am I
Right.
gonna handle it?
She would have been a whole lot more tentative to come into range
Mhm.
had she not been so sure after that first round that she was okay.
I do think, and it may just be the 27-year-old girl in me speaking, but I do think Zhang Weili's friendship with Joanna and Jędrzejczyk is going to take her really far. I know Joanna was out there for this fight. Joanna knows what it's like to be a long reigning champion. She was such a
Mhm.
bully. She has so much confidence in herself. She
Boogie
knew
woman.
the boogie woman. She
Boogie
knew
woman.
she was where she was supposed to be, atop of the throne, crown on. I
Mhm.
think having somebody like that, not literally in your corner, but in your
In
corner,
your life. Yeah.
will help her so much just mentally and emotionally. Just having somebody
Right.
that you can talk to that's been through the same exact thing.
And if you guys, for everyone listening, if you want to go and just be really happy for someone, go look at Joanna's Instagram page. This lady is living her like, is anyone having more fun and enjoying retirement more than Joanna? I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think so.
It's a little bit inspiring. Like she laid him down and she is just living her best life. She's helping fight, doing like charities to help kids fight
Mm.
cancer. She's visiting hospitals. She's training. She's doing like CrossFit type workouts. She's going to the beach. She's flying here.
She's like
She's
acting. She
she's doing like stand-up
everything.
comedy. Like this, I don't know. I see it. It makes me so happy for her. Like, she is living her best life. She grinded super hard during her career. And now
Accomplished it
she's
all.
like, yeah, now she's just enjoying the fruits of her labor. It's actually really fun to like just go through and like, I wonder what Joanna's been up to. And you just see she's jet setting and flying and doing stand-up comedy, doing some acting. She's on
Mhm.
the beach. She's everything about it is just makes me happy.
No, I so agree with you. She's my all-time favorite women's fighter, and just to see her stick around and be involved with the sport in so many different ways is so nice to see. So I was pumped
Hmm.
to see her supporting Weili and out there, and I absolutely loved it. But like we spoke about what's next for Dracus coming out victorious on Saturday, we definitely have to talk about what's next for Weili. And to be honest, we
That's
speak of
breaking Manon Fior's heart. That's what it's doing.
I mean, there's only
It's
one person I
it's
wanna see
Valentina
her fight.
Shevchenko. It's got to be
Exactly.
Valentina. And Manon is gonna get. I don't know. She's gonna get her heart broken because I don't know who else you put Whaley in there with. I
Well,
really don't.
because like we speak about Hamza Chimaev, it kind of felt like Tatiana Suarez was the ghost of the strawweight
Hmm.
division. Like whenever she got herself in a title fight, felt like she was gonna win, and
Right.
Weili handled her. So now
Hmm.
when I look at the rankings,
Yeah, it's Valentina Shevchenko or Mackenzie Dern. That's kind of where we're at here in terms of people that can defend themselves and be safe. I think Mackenzie Dern does create an interesting set of problems. Um, I I feel like it's a less of an issue after seeing her in there with Tatiana, but
Mhm.
Mackenzie throws hard. She gives no shits about the takedown because she's like I mean, that's a legitimate serious problem. I
Mhm.
mean, there's probably no one in the division she doesn't submit if she gets to her spot.
Of course.
But and she fights like that. So she doesn't give a shit about rushing forward into range. She'll just put crazy pressure on. She's got heavy hands. So I think she does create an interesting problem to deal with. I don't know that she goes. I mean, we've seen her in there with Jessica Andrade, so she's inconsistent in her performances sometimes.
Yeah.
But when she's on and she's with Jason Perillo and she's in good shape and in a great place mentally, I think that's a lot of Mackenzie Dern's problems. Is if a lot like me, if her personal
I'll
life
say ain't it
and
all for all of
yeah,
us.
like if her personal life and like her mental, you know, I don't know, mental capacity for bullshit isn't maxed out,
Yeah.
then you're gonna see a different person from time to time. So um I think it's Valentina. I think that you're gonna have to sometimes you live in a age of a sport where sometimes it doesn't work out for you. And I think the Parisian phenom in Manon is gonna feel the wrath of that a little bit.
Well, because you got to think about it like this, and our buddy RJ Clifford always says he's usually anti super fight because he
Hmm.
says that both fights you can make respectively. Like the
Right.
super fight needs to be better than both fights you can make separately.
Facts.
I, the super
It
fight's
does.
better.
It is. Yeah, he always says the super fight has to be better than the combined greatness of the two fights in their own divisions.
And I
You could
think it
put
absolutely is.
you could put both of those fights on the same card and people would say, no, I'd rather watch Zhang Weili versus Valentina Shevchenko.
Well,
I
because it
just
becomes
wonder,
good.
some of it feels unfair to Valentina sometimes.
In what
Feels,
way?
I mean, she's incredible. She's great.
Hmm.
She's been doing this a long time. It almost
Hmm.
feels like the Tom Aspinall, John Jones thing. Like we just want them to stick around long enough to lose. That's how it feels.
I don't know
Seems
though.
unfair. Like, and I mean, she's the champion of the world. Don't feel too goddamn bad for
I
her.
was gonna
But
say it's not like she's some old hag that can't win a
she
fight.
ain't young though. She
She's
ain't young.
right,
She's
but she's the
her
champion
fight
of the
style has
world.
her fight style has changed as she's aged, as her power and her strength and athleticism and her timing has dipped just a tad. She's had to adjust her style in the way that she fights. You think she's going to take down Zhang Weili the way she did Alexa Grasso? I don't think so. Not after watching Saturday. I don't think so. Not a goddamn chance. And don't forget, Tatiana Suarez smoked Alexa Grasso. We can't forget that. So
You're doing MMA math.
I am doing MMA math, but sometimes it works.
I don't know. It just doesn't feel like sticking around long enough to see them lose. For me,
Well, if
I
you're
want to know who
Valentina,
the
do you want
best.
to fight Zhang Weili? Or you want
No,
to fight Manon? It's like, yeah,
of course,
this
Manon.
French lady who can't wrestle, yeah, I'll fight that one. let me fight that one. You better
I
come
don't
with a
know.
fat check. You want me in there with Zhang Weili if I'm Valentina. You better come with something heavy. You better dig deep in them pockets. Just
And they
saying.
will. It's Valentina's show. I think aside from
Oh, no.
Jones, Aspinall, it's probably the biggest fight they could put together.
Is that
And
not
maybe it's
absolutely
recency
crazy?
bias, but that's how I
Is
feel.
that not crazy to think about? Because I believe you. I'm with you.
Because you establish who the number one
Yeah.
pound for pound female fighter is. Who is the best female fighter across all the divisions in the world right now? You find out in that fight.
For sure.
That's huge stakes.
Don't let Juliana Pena hear you say that.
She scares me.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna wait till we clip this and I send this to her.
No. Good thing I control the social media.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So anyone sending any absolute asshole DMs, I don't see them because I don't run it.
It's a good point. And even if you did, you wouldn't read them. That's just not how you get down.
It's not my thing. Post and ghost.
Who told you that?
Rogan.
Post
and ghost.
So now you've used that in 2 out of 5 episodes. The post and ghost.
That's going to be my next thing. On paper, post and ghost. There we go.
And you bring up post and ghost. We haven't talked about the Bryce Mitchell situation the last few weeks, but most recently he did the Jaxxon podcast. Ain't nowhere to be found now. They hit a post and ghost.
Yeah. I don't think that went exactly how they thought it was going to. Listen, this is a touchy subject.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people that have a lot of hurt feelings, and I don't want to discredit anyone's hurt feelings because I don't agree with listen, I love Bryce Mitchell. I think he is a sweetheart of a human. I think he's a fair bit misunderstood at times, but he doesn't do himself any favors. So I'm not saying it's not his fault that he's misunderstood. At times it's 100% his fault. But most people know Bryce from clips and interviews and media, and I've never had one of those interactions with Bryce in person. He's never said anything crazy to me in person. Well, a little bit of flat earth. Like we had some weird flat earth conversations, right? But other than that, nothing. So I'm not gonna get into too much what he said in terms of just the controversy. I 100% disagree with everything that Bryce said. I also don't believe that Bryce is. I don't believe Bryce is a Nazi, and I don't believe that he hates Jewish people. I think that he says some stupid shit sometimes, and I just don't know that he's really great at this media thing, and I don't think that he puts his best foot forward in terms of the point that he's trying to make. And I think that he's gotten away with being a bit sensational at times in his interviews and media, and sometimes that's a drug on this media side. Sometimes you get a little bit of publicity and people start to love you for you being the crazy man, and then you say some real crazy shit and it goes south, right? So again, I don't agree with anything Bryce says, but I do know the person I know in terms of Bryce Mitchell, and those two people aren't the same thing. It's, again, I don't agree with what he said. I think that it was absolutely terrible, but I don't know that that's exactly what he meant. You know what I mean? And that's just my stance on it. And I feel terrible for anyone that had that was offended, that was hurt, whatever. So with that said, I absolutely disagree with Bear and the Jaxxon Podcast bringing Bryce Mitchell. I'm guaranteeing you they paid him. They flew him out there. They said themselves that they'd been trying to get him on for a year. They knew that this controversy had just happened. You know what you're getting when you bring Bryce Mitchell on. That's your responsibility to know that. You don't get to bring him on there and then fucking dunk on him in front of the whole world when he's already down and not give him an opportunity to defend himself. And I don't think that Bryce was going to, I called Bryce today. I called him today.
Did you?
I did. I called him today to just be like, what the hell is happening here, bro? What are we doing?
Right.
And he said, everything I just said to you about how I felt about Bryce Mitchell is what he said about himself. That he's not a Nazi, that he doesn't hate Jewish people, and that it came out in a way that he didn't mean it, and he gets all amped up and he's trying to tell a story, and he's like, again, I'm not going to justify what he's saying, but they didn't give him an opportunity to explain himself. Then don't bring him on. Don't bring him on and then censor what he's saying. Let him speak his truth. That's your fucking responsibility to know that if you bring Bryce Mitchell on, he's about goddamn liable to say something crazy. But you don't get to like shit all over him when he's already down and censor what he's about to talk about, or if he wants to explain himself in a certain situation, dunk on him, and then you catch some heat for it and you pull the episode down. Say it with your fucking chest. Like, you bring fighters on, you shit on it. It happened to me. You brought me on. You're super cool to me. I had a good time. I love Rampage. He's my favorite fighter. I've said that for years. You've heard me say that 100 times. Rampage is my favorite fighter. You bring me on. I have an amazing time. And then, like, I don't know, several months later, you're on there with Dillashaw fucking making fun of me. That's what they do. That's their thing. And honestly, it's less Rampage. He's kind of just the funny ha-ha guy, and he just laughs around stuff.
Right.
They're just not great to fighters. They make fun of a lot of people. They did the same shit to Ian Gary when he was supposed to go on the show, and then they spent the show before that calling him a cuck. Whether you think Ian Gary's a cuck or not, you can't bring the motherfucker on the show the next episode after calling him a cuck and making fun of his family dynamic or him and his wife and his kid. This guy's got fucking kids. You know, then Ian gets on, social media and gets all pissed about it, and then they walk that shit back. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Like, if we bring someone on here and people don't like the episode and we get shit on for it, that's the game.
We got to live with it.
That's
at
the
the
game.
End of the day.
That's how this business works. That's how media works. Everything isn't going to go your way all the time. I get shit on all the time for shit that I say. How many episodes on here could we have pulled down if I didn't like what people said about it? Like, every single one of them.
I'd say all of
There'd
them.
be none of them. I don't like that. Like, whether you agree or disagree or like Bryce Mitchell or hate Bryce Mitchell, don't bring him on if you're not going to give him a platform to speak his truth. You can disagree with him, but like the whole, we're not going to give you a platform, or we're not going to give you like, shut the fuck up. Then don't bring him on. Don't fly the motherfucker across the country to sit him there and shit on him. And I'm not saying that what he did was right. I'm not saying that what Bryce said wasn't absolutely terrible, but just don't bring him on then. It just seems super fucked up.
Well, because, listen, I have my own thoughts on Bryce Mitchell. Obviously, I don't know him. You do. Right. I certainly do not. I think what he said was horrific, and
definitely,
I think we're all too old to play the, like, I don't know what I'm saying, and the things I say come out wrong game. But besides the point, I think that those guys can make the point that they're trying to make without bringing him on.
For sure.
Because if you're not even letting him speak, which again, I'm not sitting here saying that people should give him a platform. That's not what I'm saying. But if you decide to, then you got to do it.
You got to live with it.
But it's like, not only did they not let him speak, they then deleted it.
Totally. And like, it just lives in clips that people happen to catch. Like, I don't know. Again, this isn't me. I'm less kind of sticking up for Bryce because Bryce is a grown man. He can stick up for himself. Mm-hmm. I'm just telling you guys my experiences with Bryce. I'm a not white, not 100% Christian, not, like what you would typically guess that Bryce is going to be super close with, if that's what you believe the type of man that he is. Like, I was raised Mormon. I have Jews in my family, and I'm half black. He wouldn't hang out with me. Like, if that's really what he truly, truly believed, I'd be the last motherfucker he'd be hanging out with. But again, he'll defend himself. He'll defend himself when it's his time and whatever. But I think what Bryce believed is he was going to have a safe space to try to explain himself better. And when he got there, he was met with two people that were prepared to not give him an opportunity and were going to try to just slam dunk on him in front of a billion people and get a bunch of clicks for it. And it backfired because people seen right through that shit. Like, how shitty would you have had to been to someone for people to get mad at them for how they treated Bryce Mitchell? Like, sometimes you got to look inward. Like, and I hope that's what they're doing. Like, you have to look inward a little bit. Like, this guy was being pegged a Nazi for 2 weeks, and now people are mad at you for how you treated him. That says a lot about what you guys are doing. And I don't always say shit. I get plenty of heat myself. Sometimes you got to live with that shit. I say a lot of stupid shit. You got to eat it.
I mean, but that's what comes with being a public figure
For
and
sure.
having a platform and having a following.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be cautious about what you say, and when you're not, you got to
sure.
be able to live with the backlash that comes along with it.
You got to live with it. You got to live with it. And that's so I almost think, like, if they would have let him continue, like, speak your your truth. Tell Bryce exactly what you think of him. Have the moment that they were looking for in educating him, and maybe it almost seemed like Rampage was more wanting to give Bryce a different perspective on the things that he says and why you have to be careful and a little more pointed with your topics. And wanted to almost have it seemed like Rampage wanted to have an open dialogue, and Bear did not. Bear was there for clicks and to try to shit on someone. Like, it just wasn't like a safe space for anybody. Like, you think Bear would ever talk to Bryce like that? Like, in an alley
Privately?
somewhere? Yeah, like in an alley somewhere? Never. It was the most disrespectful way of having a conversation ever. Like, I don't think that Rampage and Bryce would ever have an issue having that really, really hard conversation in a back alley somewhere if they were both the same size and both had the same capability of beating the shit out of each other. That's my point. Like, Rampage entered it with a healthy bit of respect, with an absolute high level of disagreement. That's how you deal with things like that. Disagree, absolutely, if that's what your heart feels. But you can approach things with some respect, because now Bear finds himself where he's no better than Bryce. And I don't know. I didn't like it. Honestly, I've not liked a lot of things from them lately.
Well, you've spoken about it before. It
doesn't have a lot to do with me. Like, I didn't like it when, mine was more personal though. Like,
well, because it was Rampage. Like,
yeah, like Dillashaw was making fun of me. Like Dillashaw was making fun of me. Like, well, that guy's never going to be a champion. That guy fucking sucks. Well, you did fucking steroids your whole career. Like, I'm not going to let a juice monkey fucking make fun of me. What did Cat Williams say?
Reignite.
What did Cat Williams say? You can't do juice and then come into here talking shit about how good you look. It doesn't work like that. And I didn't even really care so much about that, because I could not care what TJ Dillashaw says about me. It was more that Rampage laughed at it, and I felt like my idol was making fun of me at the same time. Me and Rampage hashed that part of it out. My issues have always been less with Rampage and more about some of the things that have been said. And Rampage is the laughing, funny, haha guy, where you can tell sometimes he doesn't like things and he just has to laugh. But that's the position he's in.
That's right. When you're in that kind of environment, unfortunately.
Like, I don't really like this, but I have to laugh. I don't know.
It's like the strained laugh.
And honestly, I actually think Dillashaw does a good job on there when he's breaking down fights. TJ's actually got a really, really cool.
He's a good analyst.
He's a great analyst in that atmosphere. He does really good there, like explaining things and making it easy for people to understand. I think TJ does a really, really good job breaking down and analyzing fights and giving like in-depth understandings to people that are kind of like casuals. Like, even people that don't know shit about fighting can understand what he's talking about, but I still find myself picking up something from it too. Rockhold's just he's a funny dude too. Like, he's not leading anything. You know what I mean? Like, they're just the funny guys that are part of the conversation. They're having fun, and they have some really good input and some great experiences from a perspective that only they could have as champions. It's kind of just the way that some of the fighters get shit on from time. And I even kind of stuck up for them the other day with the Kevin Holland thing. Like I thought it was kind of crappy how Holland kind of came at them, and Rampage was kind of stuck in a position where he's trying to be
Got it.
professional and not fly off the handle. You know, I thought Rampage did a really good job there of just keeping his cool and kind of going with the flow. You know, that showed a lot of maturity and growth from Rampage. I mean, that's the same guy we've seen kick a door down one time. So like for him to keep his cool, I thought was cool. But I think even in that situation, I think Bear kind of egged that on. You know, I think it got worse because of him, not better because of him.
Absolutely. No, it makes perfect sense.
So, yeah. You know what? Funny enough, I was having a conversation with Bryce, and I wrote down the scriptures that he was reading, that he was talking to me about while we were on the phone. It's like,
are you going to be doing some reading?
Yeah. We had a great conversation. We didn't even talk about that stuff too much. You know, he was, when I called initially, he didn't answer, and then he called me back and said, "Sorry, brother, I was doing some construction. I was up on a ladder and just got down." And he sent me a picture. He's building some cool shit at his house. It's like the most Bryce Mitchell thing in the world.
I was going to say that's probably the most on-brand thing. It's like whenever I'm trying to get in touch with you and you're like, "Sorry, picking up a tractor
yeah,
states away." I'm like,
yeah,
what?
I'm doing some weird shit. No, it was it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scripture verses that, you know, as we were talking, it was almost like I had a little bit of a sermon, kind of. You know, it was, I don't know. We had a good conversation. Talked a lot about God and the Bible, and yeah, it was good. It was good.
Interesting.
Yeah,
right.
it was. Yeah, it was. I don't have conversations like that too much. You know,
I was gonna say that's not a conversation I would like peg you to be a part of.
No, but it's the ones I do find myself in with Bryce a lot, though, because he's very, you know, for better or for worse, he's unapologetically himself. So if he has an opportunity to speak the word, and tell you a story and how God has affected his life, he's absolutely going to. And I'm always here to listen.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you can, you know, talk about that and have that kind of insight. I do want to switch gears because you talk about storytelling. And did you see? I know you were traveling on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw how bad the Chiefs looked against the Eagles. But did you get a chance to catch the halftime show with Kendrick Lamar?
Wait. Did we just go from Bryce Mitchell to the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef? That's the best. That's the best segue I've ever heard of. That's the best one I've ever seen. I did.
It ain't always pretty, but we get there.
You know what I find myself doing all day today?
What?
Not only did I watch the halftime show, I rewatched it on YouTube later.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm watching other people watch the Super Bowl halftime show.
Me too. My whole TikTok feed is streamers watching.
For sure. I watched T-Pain watch it. And just random streamers and other artists and athletes, and watching them watch the Super Bowl halftime show. Yeah, I mean, I guess if we were talking about dunking on people, that's like the ultimate dunking on Drake. Jesus Christ.
Did you have a side in the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, Kendrick, I'm hoping
Kendrick,
after
for sure.
the funeral we just watched.
Yeah. Wait, did we just live stream? Did we just watch someone's funeral on live TV before they're gone? That's crazy.
Kendrick is so petty, and I love every second of it. And I know
that's
you can
only
appreciate
rich people.
pettiness.
Oh, I'm super petty, but that's the level of pettiness that only rich people can do. Because you're going to spend $20 million in legal fees just because of that. Like, you got to have it to be able to do that.
Well, he said it too. Like when he played the Not Like Us beat,
sure.
And he was like, I want to play everyone's favorite song, but they love to sue me. But the best part, and I think everybody knows this, it's the part that's being clipped everywhere, is when he says, "Say Drake," and he looks right into the camera and has this diabolical smile on his face.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
What do you even do if you're Drake?
I don't quit. You probably just quit.
Yeah, I think he has an album dropping this week.
Oh, God. I don't think anybody cares. It's okay. I do care a little bit because I want to see if he has like a response to Kendrick. He has to, right? Or do you just ignore it and hope it goes away?
Well,
because the only thing that it would be worse than what's happening right now is if you respond to Kendrick and then he comes out and dunks on you again. Oh God, what if he came out with it? Kendrick? I bet Kendrick Lamar has one sitting in the pipe, just waiting, just in case
I
Drake says something.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I almost feel like after an entire stadium in unison says A minor,
Mm-hmm.
you have to bow out gracefully. Like you have to go into hiding.
Well, think about this. I don't even know how many people listen to this care. He won 5 Grammys with that song.
A
You
diss
know,
track.
do you know what the Super Bowl performance means? It means he's eligible for an Emmy for his Super Bowl performance. He might get 5 Grammys and an Emmy off of a diss track. Like, what do you do if you're Drake? You just go away.
You have to.
You win. I'll go away. I'll leave you alone. Because what if he does it again? What if he's got another one? What if there's
And
another
he
like
definitely does.
top one hit just waiting? Like nothing Kendrick puts out is bad. I don't know how great Kendrick Lamar is live though. There's a lot of, especially in a Super Bowl show, where there's a lot of moving around and there's a lot of mechanics to his music and a lot of like nuances in terms of the instrumentals and the beats and the backgrounds, and it sounds better in studio. Like some music sounds like, I think country music sounds better live.
Mm-hmm.
Like I enjoy it live more. I go to a lot of country concerts for that reason. I think a lot of country songs are better acoustically.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, it's just better for me. I consume it differently. I don't feel like that with like rap music though. I think it's better when it's fully, like fully directed and fully produced and done in a studio. I think it sounds better.
No, I think that's fair. And I think
Except
a lot
Juvenile.
of people felt the
Except
same
Juvenile.
way.
Juvenile was really
Who
good
the hell
live.
is that?
You know who Juvenile is?
No.
That's how you know you're young. That's how you know I can't believe you know who Juvenile is. Like
No.
the iconic song "Back That Ass Up."
Oh, I mean, of course I know that song. That's an American classic.
Oh my God, I'm so fucking old.
Isn't it AZZ?
Oh
Like
yeah. Yep, I'm old. I'm old.
I know the song.
I'm so curious how many people are listening to this right now and are thinking the exact same thing I am. Holy shit, I'm old.
I feel like it's a niche audience that knows Juvenile.
Are you serious?
I feel like more people are going to be with me.
You're fucking fired. What are we doing? No way.
I think so, yeah.
That's a whole goddamn era. You know how many people between 33 and 43, every time they hear like that one beat hit, that knows exactly what song that is?
Yeah, but to be fair, I also feel that way when Back That Ass Up comes on. I just didn't know who the artist was. I don't think this is as egregious as it's being made out to be.
I think it is. It's
Do
embarrassing.
I know who?
It's embarrassing, actually.
It's funny enough. Don't feel.
Do you know who
bad.
Lil Wayne is?
Of course, I've seen him in concert.
How do you know Lil Wayne? You don't know Juvenile?
Why? What's? Do the two of them have a connection that I should know? Like why? Why should I not know both of them?
Lil Wayne came from Juvenile.
Why are you saying little with 2 T's?
Because he was like a child. He was a child. He was like 13. Lil Wayne is the last verse in Back That Ass Up.
I don't know if I ever listened to it all the way.
Oh God. Yep. You know how many people you just made feel really old? Because it just happened to me. You know what I was doing in 2009?
What?
Well, I was already a pro for a year.
Oh my God.
I was traveling and absolutely partying my ass off.
That's crazy. I was 12 years old. And actually, probably not. My birthday's in November. So I was 11 for most of it.
All right.
On that note. All right, Ann. I think we've covered everything. I think that's all we've got for this week.
Yeah. Today it's a little bit of a shorter show today. We're doing this one really, really late because I had basketball games and wrestling practice, and Kelly's feeling a little bit under the weather. So we're getting this one in late for you guys. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. It It's really easy for you guys and does a lot for us. Also, I think we're going to start doing that Instagram story thing where you can ask a question anonymously. Kelly will keep track of them all. And then are we going to say who they're from or no?
I have to see how the Instagram algorithm works, but I can either set it to anonymous or I think we don't say who it's from, right? Yeah. This way people will be more inclined to maybe.
For sure. Yeah, you can ask.
Nothing too crazy, please.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. Let's keep it
DJ.
Actually, you know what? I don't have 13. To read them. They're coming from Kelly. Send whatever the fuck you want. Ask all the questions. We'll answer them as they come in. Thanks for everything. Keep watching. Keep subscribing. See you guys next week.
All right. See you next week.
We partner with HomoFight Picks to get you the most accurate and well-researched fight predictions. They do all the legwork so you can focus on winning. Picks will be sent directly to your phone via text or email. It's totally up to you. The second we upload them. Use code Lionheart to get 7 free days at winnable.com/HOF picks. That's WINIBLE.com/HOF picks.